Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Multiple Careers podcast. And in today's episode, I want to talk about Chat GPT. I want to try and answer the question of whether or not Chat GPT will be replacing your job. And I know I've been holding off talking about this topic for quite a while. I've been delaying it, although I know I should make a video on this because it's such a hot topic now and it's so relevant to many of us. But, well, finally, here I am, and let's talk about this. Today, there are three things that I want to get into. The first question that I want to try to answer is, how can you know whether your particular job will be replaced by ChatGPT? The second question is, what is the real threat? What should you actually be afraid of? And number three is, what can you do, or what can we all do as humans to counter this development? I mean, we also have a say in this, right? We don't just have to play along. So ChatGPT, it has caused a lot of panic for many people, I guess, and that's mostly due to the headlines, the way that this topic is presented in the media. It has caused a lot of panic because the headlines say things like ChatGPT will be replacing many jobs, for example, copywriters or programmers, coders, data analysts, and so on. But is this really the case? Is this true? If you are someone working in this field, then this development has maybe made you a bit anxious. Will you or will you not be able to keep your job in the future? Or do you have to look for another job, perhaps? So I thought, let's just not jump to conclusions immediately, but let's try and derive a logical answer from this question, from this situation. So now let's start with the first question. Let's try and answer, how do you know whether or not ChatGPT will replace your job? So we need to answer two sub-questions. The first sub-question that we need to answer is, what does ChatGPT do? What capabilities does ChatGPT actually have? And the second question would be, what is your job? Why are you hired to do your job? What does your job entail exactly? Do you even know? Are you even really aware of where your value lies? So now let's just start with the first question, which is, what does ChatGPT do? So I do not have a background in technology or IT, so I'm not really familiar with the technicalities, but I would say that I've been using ChatGPT long enough. Well, not that long, a couple of weeks now, and I've been experimenting with it enough so that I can form an informed opinion on it. So I've been using ChatGPT to work on the final stages of my book. So as some of you might know, I've been writing a book which is titled Multiple Careers, Quit the Rat Race and Pursue Fulfilling Work. So I've hired a copywriter for my final stages, for the editing stage, and that is done now and the contract has ended. But as you might know, when you're in the final process of something, you tend to make some more changes, some more edits. And I felt in the beginning, I was kind of alone in that process. I had no one to help me line edit it and make sure that the grammar is correct and so on. I mean, there are apps like Grammarly, ProWriting 8, and so on, but it does have its limitations, and that is where I turned to ChatGPT. I installed GPT. I signed up for ChatGPT and I started using it to solve my problems. So whenever I wrote a new paragraph or a few new lines, I would input it into ChatGPT and ask it to either rewrite it or ask if this sentence is grammatically correct, or please combine these two sentences. And then also when I came to the stage of doing my fact checking, because I have several sections in that book where I talk about experiences of certain people. Let's say, for example, Karl Lagerfeld, the designer for Chanel, or Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, and I wanted to know exactly in which year they started their career and so on. So I wanted to fact check that. I asked ChatGPT to do that for me, and I must say it did a very, very good job. It was able to answer my queries. It was able to rewrite my paragraphs to make it sound more inspiring, more interesting, and I was pretty amazed at what it could do. And I started thinking that yes, it could actually it could actually replace copywriters. I mean, if I did not have a copywriter yet, when I first started writing my book, then perhaps I would just use ChatGPT. But then again, it does have its limitations. And here's the limitation that I found. The answers that you get from ChatGPT, the quality of the answers and the usefulness, the value of it, really depends on the questions that you ask it. So if you ask the wrong questions, or if you do not pose your question correctly, if you do not give it the right context, then the quality of the answers that it gives to you will also suffer. So let's just summarize what ChatGPT can do based on my experience. So it can pull data from the internet. It can pull information from the World Wide Web, and it can summarize information, it can analyze the information, it can consolidate it from multiple sources, so you do not need to do your research one by one from each website. And that does save a lot of time. Like if you go to Google, for example, and if you type in a question, then you get multiple results, right? And in some instances, you have to click your way through the many pages, through 10 pages or so, until you find the answer that you need. Whereas if you ask ChatGPT a question, the software will also already summarize all the information that it got from the web, and it will present it to you in a much more compact form, which saves you a lot of time. And also, ChatGPT surprisingly communicates very well. It's a very, very good chatbot, I would say, especially compared to all those other chatbots of major companies. You know, when you have a problem with your service, with a product or so, and you contact them, and then a chatbot answers you instead of a real human, and everyone knows what a nightmare that is, right? Because they don't understand your question, and they give a nonsensical answer and so on. But ChatGPT is really different. It through its NLP, or I think it stands for natural language processing or processor, natural language processing, I think. It has the ability to understand your questions accurately. But yeah, I must say that I think I also pose the right questions. But anyways, I would say that it can interpret your questions quite accurately, and it can also communicate the answer to you in a way that you understand it and it makes sense, and it kind of feels as though you were talking to a real person. So in that sense, I think that ChatGPT is really, really useful, and it can really reduce your workload. It can make you more efficient, more accurate, and so on. So I personally would say that ChatGPT is a win. It is a win for workers, for employees, for anyone who has a business working on a project. It can make your life much, much easier. Now, is it a threat or not? To answer that question, let's now go on to the second part, the second sub-question, which is, what is your job? What is your current job? Why are you hired to do that job? What is your value? What is the value of the job that you're doing? So in order to understand whether or not ChatGPT is a threat to the job you're doing, your whole career or a future career that you want to choose, you need to know what your job or what your career consists of. So think of your job right now. Let's just take the job that you're doing right now and try to break it down. And most likely, when you break down your job, you will be able to break it down into at least, I would say, 3 to 20 components. The more complex your job is, if you're a manager, if you're a VP, a team leader, or whatever, there are perhaps 20 tasks to your job. But if you're at an entry level, if you are an admin person, then perhaps there are only 3 components. But to be honest, even then, I would say that there are at least 10 components to your job. I mean, I've been a project management assistant myself, and I know how much work, how many things go into doing that job. And I cannot imagine that it can be simply replaced by a chatbot, right? So once you take your job and really break down all the tasks that you do, that is where you can arrive at a logical answer. So don't just get sucked in by this media hype, this panic that ChatGPT will be replacing your job, whereas that is not necessarily the case. So take a look at, let's just say, for example, those 10 subtasks within your job, and really analyze which of these can realistically be taken over by ChatGPT. And perhaps there are a few. For example, writing a report. That is something that ChatGPT can perhaps do. Or analyzing data, finding information. So for example, if your boss asks you to research data of the top 10 competitors in the global market for some product, then you can ask ChatGPT to do that. But then what about the other subtasks? What about the 7 other subtasks within your job that ChatGPT is not able to do? As long as ChatGPT cannot do those 7 things, you will definitely not lose your job. But what might happen, of course, is that those 3 subtasks, for example, that reporting, analyzing, data collecting, will actually be replaced by ChatGPT. So whereas previously, let's say for a certain job, there are 5 people hired, because there's now ChatGPT that can reduce the workload of these 5 people, perhaps there will no longer be 5 people, but there will now be 4 people. So it doesn't mean that the whole job disappears. It just means that perhaps the headcount for that particular job will be reduced. So based on that explanation just now, I guess that you can now answer for yourself whether or not your job is safe, at least for the next few years. But then you might ask, what about the future? Will my job still be safe in the future? Or what if I'm interested in pursuing another career, change careers? How will I know whether that job is safe or not, or whether it will be replaced by ChatGPT? And for that, you can actually apply the same logic that I described just now. But let's go a step further. Before I started recording this video, I really thought a lot about it. I was thinking about which jobs or careers are in general safer, relatively safer, and which jobs are relatively unsafe. And this is my thought process. So I think that jobs are relatively safe from ChatGPT if they contain 3 things, subject to 3 criteria. The first one is if your job requires you to coordinate a lot. I'll go into the details after this. The second thing is if it requires a lot of interpersonal communication. And the third thing is that your job exists. You are hired exactly because you are a human and not a robot. So let's go through these 3 things one by one. So your job is relatively safe if you are doing a lot of coordination in your job. What does that mean? So as we talked about earlier, your job consists of these subtasks, right? Of these, let's say, 10 subtasks. And we also established that ChatGPT might be able to take over, let's say, 3 of them, 2 of them, or 4 of them. But the thing that ChatGPT cannot do, at least not at this moment, is to coordinate between these subtasks. And if you are working in a company that is rather large, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Or even if you're working at a medium-sized company, even if you're just working as a receptionist or an admin person, you know that for a lot of tasks there is a lot of coordination involved, meaning that it's not sufficient to just pull information from a source and then you're done. No, right? First, you need to understand what your boss wants, what information they need, and then perhaps you need to coordinate with another person to make sure that that information is actually relevant to the business, and then you go on and maybe talk to ChatGPT and get that information. ChatGPT will pull a report or write a summary for you, but then you can't just leave that summary there, right? Then you need to take that summary and bring it to another person, provide it, supply it to another person in the company. So that is the coordination part that ChatGPT cannot do. And also, what ChatGPT cannot do is coordination that requires physical presence. So, for example, if you're an interior designer, perhaps there are a lot of things that ChatGPT can do in the designing process. For example, recommend materials, or maybe calculate dimensions, or research supplier prices, and so on, right? But when it comes to actually ordering the material and then coordinating with the client and then coordinating with the builders, the workers, and then going to the project and then observing the progress and figuring out whether everything is on track and calculating the budget. And so that is something that ChatGPT can definitely not do. And that is what I call the missing links. So the more missing links there are in your job, the less your job is actually threatened by ChatGPT or AI in general. Now let's go on to the second thing. Your job is relatively safe if your job involves a lot of interpersonal communication. And here the word interpersonal is really important because it's not just communication. If it's just communication, then perhaps ChatGPT can also do it. You can just start a meeting and type in, okay, ChatGPT, please update everyone on the latest, I don't know, forecast for 2023, right? And if that forecast is made available online, then ChatGPT can pull that and then show it on a screen to everyone in the meeting room, right? But do you think that people will be happy? Will the employees just buy that and then go home? Some perhaps, but some maybe not. The thing is that in managing a business at work, it's not just about data flows and information, right? But it's a lot about inspiration, about leadership, about teamwork, and about trust. And that is where you come in. So if your job is one that requires you to communicate things to people in a way that is inspiring, that is persuasive, and if you have to lead a team, then that is something that ChatGPT cannot do for you. And let's go on to the third thing. The third thing that will make your job or your ideal career relatively safe from ChatGPT is if you are hired exactly for the fact that you are a human. So let's say, for example, you know the brand IKEA, right? The furniture store. And you know that IKEA oftentimes has new designs coming out, and usually these designs have the name of the designer, some Swedish name, some name that I can't think about now. Let's say like Billy, you know, right? The what's it called? The bookshelf called Billy, right? Everyone knows about that one. So, of course, you could ask ChatGPT to come up with a new design and explain to you how, let's say, this new sofa would look like, what color it would have, what patterns, and whether it would sell or not, and so on. And then you can say that this sofa was made by ChatGPT, right? And maybe it would amuse some people. I mean, it would be a novelty and it would be fun. But I think that many people would still appreciate having items like furniture items or whatever that have been designed by human, that have that human touch. So in this example, what makes the item special is because it was designed exactly by this human being, this designer. And you can link the image of this furniture piece to this designer. Or let's take some other examples. For example, a coach or consultant. You could, in theory, just go to ChatGPT and when you're feeling depressed or burned out and ask ChatGPT, okay, I feel really down, life sucks, what should I do? And I'm pretty sure that ChatGPT can give you a lot of really good suggestions for how you can turn your life around, how you can change your life, right? But for some people, I mean, it works. Some people maybe prefer that method, but I would say that for the majority of people would still prefer to have a human face behind the application or even meet someone in person, because they may not really trust chatbots or softwares, applications like ChatGPT. Why would they not trust them? They are objective, right? That is another good question to ask. Is ChatGPT objective? What ChatGPT does is it pulls data information from the web, right? But it also has a limitation, of course, based on that alone. It can only summarize information that is already available on the web, but it does not have access to information that is not on the web in the first place. It cannot pull the information that is in someone's brain. It cannot pull the idea of or leverage the creativity of someone unless that person has expressed their creativity on the web through a video or a piece of artwork, a piece of writing, and so on. And let's go back to the issue of trust. While many people will trust ChatGPT entirely and treat it as though it's the oracle of the year 2023 or the 21st century, others will have some reservations. If you read the fine print below on the page of ChatGPT, you can read that It says, our goal is to make AI systems more natural and safe to interact with. Your feedback will help us to improve. So what does safe mean, and who determines what is safe or not? Will the information be biased in some way because they want to make it safe? Should ChatGPT be the ones determining what is safe or not, or should you be the one to make that judgments? Would you prefer to get the raw information, like right now you can get from Google, right? You kind of get the raw information from the original source, and you can make your own judgment which information you want to use or not. Whereas if you use ChatGPT, it will already use this safety filter, whatever is behind that. So your job, your career will be relatively safe from ChatGPT now as well as in the future if it fulfills at least these 3 criteria. Number 1 is that a lot of coordination is involved, especially physical presence in a particular location. Number 2, if your job involves a lot of interpersonal communication, where you have to lead a team, you have to inspire or motivate people, or you have to be persuasive or negotiate. And the third thing is that your job will be relatively safe from ChatGPT if you are hired exactly because you are a human, because other humans who consume a product or a service or require your help appreciate you because you are a human and not a robot. Now, conversely, when is your job not safe from ChatGPT? When is ChatGPT actually a threat to your job and career? And it's very easy. Let's just turn this whole thing around. It is relatively not safe if your job consists only of subtasks that can be done by ChatGPT without any coordination required between these subtasks. Everything can be done online. Your job can be broken down into subtasks that ChatGPT can do much, much better than you. And second, if your job does not require any interpersonal communication, so all that needs to be done in your job is to produce a report or a summary that goes straight into the inbox of someone and is read by that person without any persuasion, without any additional information or providing context in between. And number 3, your job is relatively not safe from ChatGPT if it doesn't matter at all whether you're human or not. And that is usually the case for providing information. When people just want to have the information, for example, when they contact a customer service center, they really don't care if it's a person or not, as long as they get the information that they need. And now here's a global scenario where all of these things do not matter anymore, whether there's interpersonal communication, coordination, whether you're a human or not. And that is when we actually get to a point where humans do not work at all anymore, where we are living in a society, in an economy that is so flourishing, where all the work is done by robots and AI, where you do not have to work anymore. And in that situation, then perhaps it really, really doesn't matter whether humans are doing it or not. So guys, in the beginning, I told you that in this video, I will talk about what you should actually be worried about. But before we go on to that, let me now turn to ChatGPT and actually ask ChatGPT for its opinion on this topic. If I ask ChatGPT this question, will ChatGPT replace jobs? This is the answer. I'll read it out to you. As an AI language model, my purpose is to assist and augment human intelligence rather than replace jobs. While it is true that AI technologies like ChatGPT are becoming more advanced and capable, it is unlikely that they will completely replace human jobs. So just like I said before, they will replace subtasks but not complete jobs. Instead, AI technology can be used to automate certain tasks and improve efficiency in many industries, but there will still be a need for human input, creativity, and decision making. I agree. It's worth noting that new technologies and automation have disrupted certain job sectors in the past, but they have also created new opportunities in emerging fields. In the long run, it's likely that AI technology will change the nature of work, but it's difficult to predict exactly how this will happen. As AI technology advances, it's important for individuals and organizations to adapt and learn new skills to stay relevant in the job market. So this is also one point that I want to add. So after thinking of all of this, what is the implication? How can you make sure that you stay relevant in the job market? And it's actually pretty simple. You have to concentrate on those elements, those things that ChatGPT cannot do. You have to strengthen your skills, your experience, the value you bring in those areas, which is coordination, interpersonal communications, and being good at being a human, right? Because the thing is, I mean, you've experienced it yourself, right? Working is not just about working. I mean, we humans tend to think that everyone is objective and should be objective in doing their work. But in reality, it is not the case at all. Let's say at work, you need a favor from another colleague. You need your colleague to help you out with something, right? The way you pose the question, the context that you give to that person, and the manner in which you approach that person will really make a difference in terms of the results that you get. So now let's go on to talk about what you should be really worried about. And it is not ChatGPT. I think that ChatGPT is really not a threat. If anything, it enriches our lives, it makes our work easier, it has the potential to increase our productivity. What we should be really concerned about, I think, is if in the future apps like ChatGPT, chatbots, platforms like these get more integrated into the physical world. So they are not just online on your screen, but they are able to communicate with your gadgets, with your car, and perhaps with the advance of Neuralink. When you have this device implanted in your head, it also interacts with your brain and how you think. Tell me if you've seen one of those really advanced high-tech robots like that robot called Sophia. Sophia looks like a human being and talks not really like a human being, but quite, and she can move and everything, but that robot is still quite limited, right? And on the other hand, we have a lot of industrial robots that can build components, that can build cars and so on, and that can even cook. So there are some restaurants, fast food restaurants, I think, that use robots to cook their food for the customers, but everything is still kind of disintegrated. It's not all one piece. But just imagine in the future where we get to a point where everything is integrated. So in the example of an interior designer, after asking ChatGPT to redesign, let's say, this room, it will ask you to provide it with a layout of this room, and perhaps you don't even need to do that. You just need to tell it by voice command to pull the floor plan from the web, and it will do it, and it will then calculate all the dimensions, it will access the latest trends, and it will come up with this new beautiful design. But then instead of you being the one taking that design and giving it to, I don't know, your construction worker, to your contractor or so, it automatically sends it to a contractor who then calculates the budget, and you just need to say approved, and then the contractor doesn't even need to source the materials himself, because the order will go directly to a supplies store where there will be robots to cut the pieces that you need and collect the paint from the store, and then automatically load everything onto a self-driving truck, which then delivers it to the construction site, where robots will await already, completely outfitted with the most advanced AI, and all these machines will start the building process autonomously with cameras around to track the progress of the project, and machines who do the QC or the quality control, and you do not need to do anything. End-to-end AI and robots will take care of the whole building process. Okay, I know that midway I kind of changed the example. It's no longer designing this room, but actually building a house. But anyways, you got my point. So will we get to that point? Perhaps we could actually get there. I mean, it is physically possible, right? But I believe that it will still take a lot of time. While components of these solutions are already available in real life, it takes a lot of time to integrate these things. I mean, just imagine, until today, accountants still use the application Microsoft Excel. And I know Microsoft Excel is an application from the dinosaur age, but still it is so useful. So far, there are no other applications that were able to fully replace Microsoft Excel, just because it is so versatile and you can adjust it to your needs. Another scenario that could also be worrying is when we get to a stage where human beings have developed in a way that they've become cold, meaning that they do not want any human interaction, and that they actually prefer to interact with robots and AI. If that scenario kicks in, then you as a human actually do not have any leverage at all. At that point, you will not have any value just because you are a human. And this is where I want to get to my third point that I want to discuss in this video, which is what can we actually do to influence this whole development? I mean, some people think that we are just bystanders in this whole AI development thing, that we just sit back and see what's happening and hear from the media what the latest AI developments are, and there's just nothing that we can do. Whereas in reality, we are players in this game. We are people who can actively influence what we want. What kind of products and services do we want to consume? Do we want products that are fully made by machines, fully designed and created, innovated by machines? Or do we want to have a human being behind it? Do we want this lamp, for example, or this pot to be crafted by a human being? Also, talking about education, in the future, would we want our whole education process to take place online with an AI chatbot, or would we prefer talking to a physical human being in person, like in a classroom? Also, if we were to experience a mental health condition, would we be okay to communicate with a robot, with a chatbot, or would we prefer to have a physical human being who we could sit across face to face, who we could confide in? So the question is, I think, what kind of appreciation do we as human beings give other human beings? In how far do we value other human beings? If we do not value human beings at all and what they can bring to the table, then I'm sorry to say that yes, one day all jobs will be replaced by AI at some point, and perhaps human beings will even be eliminated. This is, of course, the worst case scenario. By the way, tell me down in the comments what you think about this. But anyways, guys, until then, it will be a very, very long time. I do not think that it will happen in this lifetime, so it's not something that we should worry about. In any case, if you are keen to future-proof your career for the next few years, for the next decade, I want to share with you a very, very good quote that I got from this book, The Robots Are Coming, The Future of Jobs in the Age of Automation. I highly, highly recommend it. It's by the author Andres Oppenheimer, and I will read you this very insightful quote. Andrew Sandberg, a PhD in computational neurosciences, who was also involved in the Oxford study on the future of jobs, summed it up for me this way. It's quite simple. If your job can be easily explained, it can be automated. If it can't, it won't. In other words, algorithms and robots are better than humans at doing repetitive, predictable tasks, as we talked about earlier. An algorithm learns the same way a child does based on examples or behaviors that are taught. If you can show another person a detailed list of the tasks he or she performs, so I want to repeat this is very important. If you can show another person a detailed list of the tasks he or she performs, and if most of these tasks are relatively predictable, sooner or later that job will be replaced by an algorithm or a robot. And to take it one step further, just about every job has at least a few chores that will end up being automated. So this just confirms my understanding of the whole situation. It is already a certainty that parts of your job will be automated and potentially replaced by Chat GPT. Maybe not entirely, maybe just 10% of your job or 5% of your job, which then will result in a reduction of headcounts in your particular area. And as Andres Oppenheimer said, if you're able to break down your job into subtasks, if you can really detail it out, then there's a high chance that either ChatGPT or an AI, a robot, a machine, or so on can take over your job. But really think about the job you're doing now or your future career that you're pursuing. If that job or your career, if you cannot really explain to anyone all the tasks that are involved in it, if it is too complicated to explain, then chances are that AI, robots, Chat GPT will not be able to replace you. And I think that's really good news. But perhaps, and this is something I really want to ask you, you're not keen on just keeping your job, because just keeping your job is perhaps rather easy, and that's also likely to happen, especially if you're good at it. But perhaps it's not enough for you to just keep your job. Perhaps you also want to have a job, or you want to pursue a career that is actually fulfilling and meaningful to you. It's not a job where you just work 9 to 5, 9 to 7, 9 to 9 every day and feel like you're trapped in a rat race without any kind of meaning. You feel bored, you feel your job is repetitive, but you actually want to have a career that is purposeful, that provides you with a sense of meaning, that excites you to be working on it every day. But you might also not know how to get out of your current situation. It is so easy to just linger on in a job that you worked in for years, and it can be so daunting to think about leaving it and start something different. And I've done it myself. I started my first career in banking, and I finally, after 5 years, I managed to leave it, and I started a whole new career in filmmaking, acting, content creation, and it was so rewarding. But if I think back to those times when I left my banking job, it was really difficult. I felt like I was alone and no one really understood what I was trying to do. Even my parents, like, they had no idea what I was trying to do. Why are you now leaving your job? You have such a good job and such good prospects in the banking world. Why would you leave your job for something that is so uncertain, right? But at that time, I knew that banking just wasn't for me. I needed to look for something else, something that was better suited for my personality and something that I would thrive better in. So if those are things that also worry you, that make you anxious at the moment, then perhaps my upcoming book that I will launch very soon in April or latest in May might help you. That book is titled Multiple Careers, Quit the Rat Race and Pursue Fulfilling Work. And in that book, I will detail step by step how you can escape the rat race and finally start working and spending your time on things that you actually care about. And this book is not just theory, but it is accompanied by a workbook that I will attach to the book. And if you follow the workbook, the exercises in the workbook step by step, then over the course of the next year, you will totally change your mindset and your view about what it means to have a career. And you will be finally able to leave a career that you don't really like and pursue fulfilling work. I'm really excited about the book, and I will make sure that I will keep you updated on that. So if you're not subscribed yet to my channel, and if you want to receive further videos and updates about my upcoming book, then do make sure that you subscribe to my channel. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the notification bell and set it to all notifications so that YouTube will update you once there's a new video from me. Guys, as always, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being with me on this journey of creating these podcast episodes. I'm really happy that you listen in. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best for your career. Never believe that it's too late to change your career. Things can always change for the better. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.